Interstate 71 is a 344-mile-long route that runs from Interstate 90 in Cleveland, Ohio to I-64 and I-65 in Louisville, Kentucky. It only runs through those two states, but it does connect the major cities of Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, and Louisville. Bit of an odd one out there. The first parts of I-71 were opened in December 1966 outside of Louisville. I-71 was also originally designated as Ohio State Route 1 before being replaced by the Interstate branding later on. The route's northern terminus is at an interchange with Interstates 90 and 490 in downtown Cleveland. Immediately after this, 71 heads south to have a cramped exit with Ohio Route 176, which is followed by another exit, this time with US Route 42. There are exits in Brookville and Lyndale, where 71 hooks a turn to the south to meet State Route 237, Interstate 480, and the airport. Following this are several smaller exits, as well as an exit with US Route 42 again, before we meet our second two-digit interstate, I-80. Past I-80 is an exit with Ohio Route 82 in Strongsville and an exit with State Route 303 in Brunswick. We also meet State Route 3, which is followed by an interchange with Interstate 271, a child route of 71 that continues northeast back to Cleveland. Past I-271 is State Route 18 in Windfall, though most people are probably using this road to access Medina or Akron instead. Outside of Westfield Center is a wonky interchange with US Route 224 and Eastern I-76, which takes you to Akron and eventually Pittsburgh. Past this, 71 has exits with State Route 83 in Burbank, US Route 250 in Ashland, and US 30 outside of Mansfield. Speaking of Mansfield, we meet State Routes 39 and 13, which also connect back to Mansfield. Fast forward a few miles and we meet State Route 97, a small road connecting the towns of Lexington and Belleville. Fast forward even more and we have State Route 95 and a rest area outside of Chesterville. We then parallel and exit with State Route 61 and then meet and exit with US Route 36 a few miles later in Berkshire. Outside of Africa? We meet State Route 750, which is followed by an interchange with Interstate 270 and State Route 161 in northern Columbus. In downtown Columbus, we meet Interstate 670, which is immediately followed by the actual Interstate 70, which would become concurrent with for about a mile before turning south and meeting State Route 104 whilst paralleling the Scioto River. We then meet Interstate 270 for a second time, meet State Route 665, and then finally exit with US Route 62 as we leave the southern side of Columbus. We have exits with State Routes 56 and 38 before meeting US Route 35 in Octa. A few miles later, we meet US 68 and State Route 73, both of which connect back to Wilmington. We also meet several state routes in the suburbs of Cincinnati, where we happen to meet another interstate, I-275. From here, we meet State Route 126 and US 22, as well as State Route 562 and US 22 again. In downtown Cincinnati, we meet a jumble of routes, including Interstate 471, US Route 22, US Route 42, US Route 50, US Route 52, US Route 25, US Route 147, and Interstate 75. We gain concurrency with 75, where we turn south to cross the Ohio River into Kentucky. Now in Kentucky, we meet US 25 a few times before junctioning Interstate 275 at a stack interchange in Erlanger. We also meet State Routes 236, 1017, and 18 before meeting US 25 again. From here, we exit in some smaller towns, and an interchange with I-75 follows shortly after, where 71 breaks off onto its own road again. We then meet some smaller state routes, and then have an exit with US 127 outside of Glencoe. Following 127, we exit in the small towns of Sparta, Carrollton, and Campbellsburg, where we meet US Route 422. We meet State Route 146 in Buckner and 329 in Crestwood. After that, there is a Cloverleaf interchange in which we meet Interstate 265, which is succeeded by a T interchange with the north end of Interstate 264. Finally, the southern end of I-71 is at a mess of an interchange with Interstates 64 and 65 in downtown Louisville, only about a quarter mile away from the Ohio River. 71 may not have been a very long interstate, but it was definitely a nice break after the monster that was I-70. And I'll see you next time on Interstates when in the next episode we cover I-68.